For me personally, when I was really young, 8 or 9, I always was singing all the time, and my parents were like, "You really like to sing," and so they like signed me up for this thing called Johnny High's Country Music Review in Arlington, Texas, and I went and sang on it, and they kept inviting me back every week to do it, and I loved to do it. It was like my favorite thing in the world. So my parents would always take me to sing at it, and then there was a contest with all 300 performers that regularly do it, and I auditioned to be in the contest, and I won the whole thing. I think that was the moment where I was like, I maybe can do this. And so I'd kind of just been really into it ever since, and the rest is history. That's my
Wow. I think not necessarily knowing that I had talent, because I think talent's one thing, but I think more importantly that how I wanted to do this industry, I think I realized early on, if in any kind of field, if you want to do something, you just have to put a lot of hard work into it, I think most importantly. And so I think for me, it wasn't knowing, I guess I had a little bit of talent, but knowing that if I wanted to do music, putting in all that hard work. And I think I learned that really young from other things like academics and stuff. And I went to boarding school and I went to Yale. And so I learned that kind of thing. I think that's what helped me decide, okay, I think I have some ideas in music that I can contribute to the world. Now I just put the hard work into it, and I think that's probably more important than talent.
I grew up doing a lot of musical theater stuff, and that was like such my passion. I loved singing. My mom wouldn't get me a voice lesson, and then finally I was like, please can I audition? So I finally got a voice lesson, and with that, my voice teacher was like, come audition for this show, and I was like, I'd love to. So I did that, and then just did that really throughout high school and everything. And I felt like I was pretty good, but I feel like the defining moment of that was when I auditioned for college, because all the music programs are so select and just very small. And the one I wanted to get in is very prestigious, and only 12 people get in, or 12 to 14. They cap their musical theater students at 50 total. And I really, really wanted to get in, and I was just had the drive for it, had the ambition. I was like, if this is what I'm supposed to do, then I will get in. And I did. So I think that's what really just was the defining moment for me that I could do this.
For me, I started choir in 8th grade, and I liked it. It was pretty cool. And then I joined my high school choir, and that summer my voice had changed, and I didn't even know it. And so it got really low, and I noticed that the other people couldn't sing the way that I sang, and I just remember being in choir and just the harmonies and just the way it makes you feel, and just the togetherness, and just being able to support other people with your voice. It was really an amazing feeling. That's what I wanted to.
You just did it for the girls.
Yeah, I actually just did it for the girls.
He does it for the girls. Yes.
Well, I started off singing at a really young age. I would sit in my room when I was 3 and listen to Paula Abdul tapes on repeat. And just sing along.
Good choice.
No, I also auditioned. I actually auditioned for the same musical theater school that she did, and I ended up getting into. So that was a defining moment for me in musical theater. But then, it's hard to say. I mean, I've always been a huge music nerd, and I would sit at home for hours just listening to a bunch of weird music, and he can vouch. And it's just hard to say if there was a defining moment. I've just always kind of had this intuition that this is what I was supposed to be doing.
There's one of two ways.
Yeah, well, a lot of the times we all really just sit in a circle, and we'll arrange it together. Kevin and I will start, he'll start the beats, and I'll start the chord progression, and then whoever's going to sing the solo, we'll start singing the solo over it, and then we start trying to get the background parts behind it, and then kind of just get a feel for the arc of the song, and then once we have the arc and the skeleton of the song, then we try to make moments and stuff like that. So it's really fun.
It can be very, very strenuous.
Kirsty, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, Kirsty should talk about this one.
I feel like everyone knows their voices and knows their limits, and I feel like you just really have to work through it and just understand your voice, and if you need to take a break, take the break. Drink plenty of water, eat healthy, anything you can do. I take a lot of vitamin C, and I take extra precautions just to make sure my voice is fine, and we're about to go on tour, our first ever tour together, and I'm just making sure it's like A-okay right before we go on.
And what's really hard about what we do, being like this vocal band, we do all the instruments with our voices. So even when someone's not singing the solo, you're singing some part. And then depending on the song, sometimes my harmony will just be like, ah, the whole time. And so 3 minutes of that, and then, okay, let's start the next song. And so it can be very, very hard on an hour show. You can, by the end of it, your voice can be gone. So what she was saying, it's all about like sleeping.
Yeah, and there's barely any break because you're doing background parts, and those could be really
right.
And I think the hardest part about that is that we only have 5 people, and we usually only have 4 people singing. So each person is doing like double the work with their voices. Mm-hmm. So it's really hard to keep it intact and like strong and all that stuff. I mean, it's like, you know, if you break a string on a guitar, you can just replace it. With our vocal cords, we have to like take care of it. It's our body. Yeah. Our instrument is our body. So it's definitely a challenge.
And it's scary because if one person's not at like full vocal potential, then the whole thing falls apart. We only have 5 people singing.
I think for us, that's probably one of the biggest parts of how we get our music out there. I think Scott has talked about how we have to be self-sufficient in this day and age, and in order to do that, we have to use social media ourselves, and so that's what we try to do to our utmost of abilities. I mean, YouTube's an incredible source, and just, you know, for us especially, our first video to really go viral was our videos, Go To Somebody That I Used to Know, our cover, and to date it has almost 8 million views, and just to get that feedback was so crucial to us, to know that, you know, we have to continuously make music, that the type of music that we're doing is so unique, and it can have a place in this music industry. So it gives us a lot of hope, and it's really exciting.
I mean, it's our big thing too. Like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube is, as you said, how we get all our music out there. There's been times where someone's recognized me on the street for our YouTube video. They've been like, "You're that guy on YouTube that sings Somebody They Used to Know," and that's interesting because it's cool to be recognized for that. And we were on this major network television show, but it just goes to show that if you put some amazing content on YouTube, even something anyone can upload something on can become something huge. If that made sense. The syntax of that was probably not.
And I think one more thing to add to that is, like, through Twitter and Facebook and even YouTube, we really try to keep our fans involved and know that, like, we care about them, and that, you know, that their support really mean a lot to us. You know, we'll reply to them on Twitter, on Facebook, and even ask them, like, you know, what songs they want us to do next. Mm-hmm. So I think that's another thing, is that, you know, we show our love to our fans, and they show it right back.
Well,
sure. Well, we just released our first EP, PTX Volume 1. And you know, we have covers and we have 2 originals on it. And actually, the originals were the most difficult part of the album to record because, you know, we hadn't done that kind of thing before. And we knocked out the covers first, and then we were like, okay, so where do we go from here? You know? So, but yeah, I mean, we're so incredibly proud of it. It did amazingly well. And it ended up on, you know, the Billboard Top Charts, number 14. We were so unexpected, but, you know, we're so honored.
Well, we'll have to go one at a time. For me, it's all R&B. I love Jasmine Sullivan, John Legend, Robin Thicke. That whole scene has always really inspired me. And
I'm a cellist, and so classical music has always inspired me. People like Jacqueline Dupre, Yo-Yo Ma, Daniel Barenboim, just because the level of musical intuition is just so high, and I just really appreciate that. So yeah, I really love classical music.
I grew up listening to really strong female pop vocalists, and I was obsessed with Paramore and a bunch of really awesome pop females. But right now I tend to go for more singer-songwriters because I just think their music is very lasting and very artistic, and I love their lyrics. I love Sarah Bareilles, I love Maria Mena. She does a lot in the UK, and I just love the lyrics. That's just exactly what I go for.
I grew up listening to James Taylor and Simon and Garfunkel and just really amazing folk artists, like Bob Dylan and stuff like that. And I just really love their music because you can really feel what they're singing about, and I don't know, it just makes me feel a certain way. It makes me think. It brings my spirits up. And lately, I've been listening to like Bon Iver and Iron and Wine and stuff like that. So that's what I like.
Well, I've always listened to pop music, but not recently, but when I was like, I think around 13, 14, I started getting into electronic music, and dance tracks have definitely influenced my vocal style, like Nadia Ali and Richard Bedford. But I'm also really into R&B, thanks to these guys, especially him, because he really likes R&B. So currently I'm really into the Frank Ocean album, Channel Orange.
Oh my gosh, it's my album right now.
I think one of the most important things that we got was that from being part of the sing-off, if you want to be in this business, you have to work the hardest that you can. We had such long days, and we had to take care of our voices, but even so, we realized if we wanted to get to the top, even though we had 15-hour day, we had to make a 16-hour day to practice even more than the next group. This business is so hard, and to be the best, you really have to exert yourself to the utmost. And so I think that's what we did, and thankfully it proved well for us. So.
And another thing I learned, I think, from the show and from this whole experience in general is that you have to be self-sufficient, that people aren't just going to do things for you, especially in the music industry these days, that you have to just make your music and do what you do and set your own schedule and make your own success. I, as he was saying, work really hard, and I think it's being a perfectionist. A lot of people just get sloppy because they get lazy. I feel like if you get a really creative thing no one's ever done before, something extraordinary, and perfect it, then you're golden.
And to add on to that, you're always going to be your biggest critic, but don't be too hard on yourself. You have to give yourself some credit, because you'll write a song and you'll be like, this is amazing, and you come back to it an hour later and you're like, this is the worst thing I've literally ever seen in my life. But, just give yourself some credit.
Yeah. I also think I actually watched Common's Grammy interview, and he said something. He said, you have to just believe in yourself. You really have to believe. The music that we do, we have no tracks. We're the music. And, a lot of people might not think that this could be popular, but I think in 1 year we've been able to do all these incredible things, like to be on the Billboard number 14 and Billboard 200 charts. And I don't think a lot of people would see that as possible. So we really had to continuously believe in ourselves, that say, yeah, we can be a group like this in the mainstream, in the music industry. So we just keep believing and keep pushing and know that, what we have is unique, and it can be, and hopefully if people listen to it, they'll like it. So.
And I think one more thing is that just to never forget that it's about the music, how it makes you feel and what it does for other people, That's really why everyone should be in it.
Wonderful. I feel like I should add something because I'm the only one that talk. I would say just take every opportunity that you get, because it may pass you may never get this. And just expounding upon it, it's really fortunate that we were on the show and were able to do this, and then we kept up with social media and kept everyone interactive with us. We didn't disappear, and now we're here, and it's so fortunate, and it's because we embraced that opportunity and did all we could with it by working hard and by all the things that everyone has said.